Hello and welcome to Collectivesting. This is a YouTube channel for collectors who are interested in investment value for collectibles, specifically comic books from DC, Marvel, and more publishers, as well as trading card games such as Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. I wanted to create a channel to bridge the gap between quick market price updates, but with more of a focus on graded comic books, high value TCG cards, and with deep dives into the story, writing, and artistic technique that drive value. So I've been searching around on YouTube to kind of find a YouTuber or a channel that does um, more of like talking about the stories and about like the actual reviews of comic books, maybe how to get back into it if you haven't done it in 10 years or 5 years, and there's so many books being published all the time. It's kind of hard to jump back in. And same thing with the TCG. I feel like Pokemon has resurgences every now and then, and it's kind of overwhelming. So a lot of people gravitate towards what they got into when they were younger. So I kind of wanted just to create a YouTube channel where I talk about news stories or um, secret layer drops from Magic the Gathering and specific Pokemon cards that seem to have really cool art and might increase in value and things of that nature. I'm also creating this channel to create a community for fans to learn from each other on investing collectibles and to also share their favorite cards or comics. So eventually, what I would like to do is have Zoom calls with people that just want to share a cool comic that they found or a cool TCG card that they would like to kind of share and talk about the art and why they like it. Um, I also have a small, but it's a vastly or quickly growing collection that I would like to share, including CGC grading reveals for things like my Frank Miller Dark comic or Dark Knight Returns comic. I just got it from San Diego Comic-Con. I actually was in line and was able to get two Frank Miller signatures on the Dark Knight Returns issue 1 and issue 4. I also want to have a video unboxing my Final Fantasy MTG collector booster box that I received. I won an Arena Direct tournament where if you are playing on Magic the Gathering Arena, every now and then the Arena app, which is free to play, they will have a tournament where you can spend, I think this particular one was 8,000 gems, which you can collect for free just by doing the dailies. And it gives you one entry ticket into a tournament. So you do a draft, and if you win 7 matches without losing, I believe then two or three, I forgot specifically, but it's either you can lose two or if you lose a third one, then you're out. But if you get to 7 wins, they'll actually mail you a physical collector's booster box. Sometimes the reward will be a play booster box as well. But um, I thought it was really cool that I was able to win a collector booster box. So I wanted to share that unveiling. All right, so then another thing that I want to do on this channel is I've been going to conventions like San Diego Comic-Con and WonderCon since 2012. I've met a lot of really cool people, like Kevin Smith, I just mentioned Frank Miller, Scott Snyder, Rob Liefeld, and I kind of wanted just to share those experiences. Maybe other people out there might think that it's kind of cool to hear the stories. Also, I had an outburst while waiting for a Tom King signing, which I'll share that. That's kind of a funny story too. So my first story I'm going to share is about my trip last week to Rome. So why am I talking about Rome? Why is there a picture of the Colosseum that I'm sharing right here? Um, you guys probably are like, this is a comic book channel, or so you're saying. Well, I'll explain that. So, if you've ever visited Rome, it's a very modern city, kind of looks like New York. It's got trains and subways and all of that, but it's filled with ancient architecture, really cool fountains and statues from the past. And one thing I noticed while visiting the Vatican and the Colosseum, and as well as Pompeii, is that the walls and the inside of the buildings are just filled with art from 2,000 years ago. People drew art on the walls, they're on these columns, and they're depicting stories. And when I was looking at one of these columns, I noticed that the art was in sequential order, kind of like a comic book panel. So uh, I was starting to wonder, and I Googled this, or actually, I went on Google Gemini, which is an AI research tool. Sorry, I guess like already talking too much and need water. Um, and it actually said this is a real thing. So, uh, Romans used frescoes and mosaics that served the exact same narrative function as modern comic strips or graphic novels. They told complex stories, often for an audience that was largely illiterate. So it was called sequential art. It was the precursor to comic books. The key concept here is sequential art. While modern comics rely on frames and word balloons, ancient narratives use continuous horizontal bands, which was known as the scroll effect. This is the most direct parallel to a modern comic book strip. So the reason Romans did art like that to tell stories is a lot of people couldn't read and write, but they could understand pictures. So when we were there, we actually had a tour guide who explained to us that old menus would have pictures that people could point to, and they would say, "Oh, I want the fish," or "I want, this drink," or chicken, because they couldn't read. So the menus were actually just little icons so that they could tell what they wanted to order. Um, so here is I just had this picture of the Colosseum because I thought that that looked awesome. So here's what I'm talking about. This is Trajan's column. And if you look on this column, you can kind of see the artwork. And all of these columns are actually telling a story. Um, let's see if I had it written down here. It features a continuous spiraling band of relief sculpture that tells the entire story of Emperor Trajan's Dacian Wars. It's essentially a 600-foot long, 2,000-year-old action comic strip detailing military campaigns, battles, and ceremonies. That's exactly what it looked like when I was there looking at it. So ancient Roman tombs and sarcophagi are also used to tell stories. So that's what this is here. Um, I don't specifically know what this one is about, but it talks about the deceased one's life, usually. Uh, and again, if you kind of look and see how the artwork wraps around, in a way, it's very similar to panels in a comic book. So to me, I just thought that this was really cool. I thought, if people 2,000 years ago were willing to sculpt out their artwork or willing to, you know, write it down in the columns, or most of it's not written, it's actually sculpted. So excuse me for that. But it just showed me that art and the appreciation for comic books and even like trading cards, people have been doing this for thousands of years, and I think it's deeply ingrained in like the human psychology and just something that people kind of gravitate towards and really like. So when I was younger, I loved collecting comic books and cards like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. I remember in fifth grade, it was the year 1999 when Pokemon was huge. I couldn't get more excited going to school because like they let us bring our binders for show and tell. You could trade with all of your friends, and I was so excited for that. Hit sixth grade, and the moment I was in sixth grade, it was kind of like, oh, you're not really supposed to be into Pokemon cards or video games or comic books anymore. You're kind of getting older, which looking back, I feel like a sixth grader is like 10 or 11 years old. Like I feel like that was kind of silly to for people to be telling me that. So my friends and I would actually kind of hide our passions. Um, we just wouldn't talk about it at school, and we'd wait till we got home to kind of enjoy these things. But as I got older, especially around like high school, I kind of just stopped collecting cards and stopped collecting comic books. And then in college, when the Iron Man movie came out and the MCU started getting really popular, I felt like there was like a big culture shift where you didn't really have to hide that anymore. And a lot of people were really starting to like um, these things. So I started collecting comic books again and read some really good stories. I thought that the writing was really well done. Um, so I just realized like I'm, gonna get back into this, start collecting comic books and trading cards and not worry about how it's being perceived by my peers. Also, if the Romans were badass gladiators who enjoyed art and storytelling, why can't we do that too? So, um, another thing that I wanted to share, let me see if I have any more pictures. I think, oh yeah, this was one more. This was kind of some art that is found underneath the Colosseum. So I could be wrong on this. Like there was like 20 people with us, so it's kind of hard to hear the tour guide, but I think she was saying that the gladiators were actually drawing into the stone while they were kind of down in their holding cells, depicting the fights that they were having with like all of these animals, like in the Colosseum floor. So again, to me, when I saw this, I was like, man, this in a way, it's just so reminiscent of a comic book and um, even like a trading card. Like it's just people doing, extraordinary things and they wanted to write it down. Like they felt like they had to put it in stone or put it in a sculpture to remember it. So I also wanted to share some actual art. So I've got this, which I thought was awesome. Someone was just painting this right outside the Colosseum. And then I also got this one, which is called Trevi Fountain. I have pictures of this too. This was like a really cool fountain that's just in the middle of a large city. So, um, that's why my first video is about Rome, and somehow I think that it connects to comic books and artwork and drawing. So, that's kind of it for my first video. I'm gonna be sharing more soon. I'm going to a Jim Lee signing. I'm looking up here because I have some comic books that I'm going to have Jim Lee sign. Justice League Rebirth, not Rebirth, but the new 52 issue one, and then I'm going to send that in to get graded. And also Uncanny X-Men 266, which is like the first appearance of Gambit. So once I get those comic books, I'll create another video. I might even do some in between because that's a week, actually 2 weeks from today. So I'll definitely do some video sharing some stories and some cool comics that I have. I keep looking up because I'm thinking about which one should I do. My new wife actually just got me Deadpool issue number 1, so maybe I'll do that. All right, talk to you all soon.